return to Mark's Gospel today after a post-Easter liturgical rabbit trail through the Gospel of John. Just for a brief review, we find Jesus in the opening chapters of Mark at breakneck speed, preaching the nearing of God's kingdom, calling disciples to participate in his mission, and breaking age-old boundaries through table fellowship and healing. Jesus begins his ministry as a doer. In today's portion in chapter 3, we find Jesus at home. He comes to the place where he can get some family support. No matter how much good trouble Jesus has stirred up throughout Galilee, he can always head back home. Enjoy kebabs on the grill, Galilean Merlot, plump olives, and figs as sweet as honey. And yet, this little family reunion turns sour before it even gets a chance to kick in. With all the crowds pressing upon him, with the powers that be coming down hard on him, Jesus' very own flesh and blood, his relatives, his mother and siblings, find their way through the crowds and attempt to lay hands upon him. Let me make myself clear. This isn't the blessed kind of laying on of hands, the kind where parents gently pat the top of children's heads as they scurry off to school in the morning. No, this is an aggressive type of laying on of hands, the one where you lay your hand upside somebody's head or rein the person in with a half Nelson. Translations of the Greek are confusing at this point. The King James Version says, when his friends heard that he was home, they went out to seize him, for they were saying he is out of his mind. These weren't Jesus' friends. They were his family. The New Revised Standard Version corrects that and says when his family heard that he was home, but then it tries to make the account easier to swallow too. That version goes to say that people, some people, other people than his family were saying that he'd lost his mind. The Greek actually says Jesus' family tried to lay their hands on him, tried to get him and rein him in because they, his family, thought he'd lost his mind. That's what Jesus gets when he goes home for a little break and a picnic. His own blood kin think he's off his rocker. Why? What has Jesus done to deserve this hassle from his own family? It's not because he does all this preaching about the coming of God's reign. John the Baptist preached a similar message. It's not because he heals and casts out unclean spirits. Other people had the power to do that at the same time in the first century. Why does Jesus' own family think he's crazy when he comes home looking for family togetherness and comfort food? I'll tell you why they think Jesus is off his rocker. Because he's doing the kinds of ministry that shake up the world and therefore get the people who are powerful in this world angry with him. Jesus, you see, calls and expands a larger family to participate in his saving work. Then he and that new family of disciples go to it with this loving and saving mission, even when they know the political and religious authorities want to squash it. Any reasonable person would stop doing what they were doing, would lay low for a while, would stop trying to change the world. but not Jesus. The Spirit of the living God is present and unleashed in this Jesus wherever and to whomever he goes. So even at a family reunion, he's still working this theme of God's coming reign and God's love, and still talking about changing the hearts and lives of people from all walks of life, all the riffraff, all the wealthy, all walks of life. And he won't let up. That's why Jesus' immediate family wants to let him know that they think he's lost his mind. But Jesus didn't do what a loyal son would do. He didn't get up and say, "Wait a minute, disciples and friends. My mom and my siblings are outside trying to get me under control. I'll be right back." Instead, he says, "Who are my mother and my brothers? I'll tell you who. My real mother is not just the one who gave me birth. My real siblings are not just the ones who grew up around me in Nazareth. You. The ones here sitting with me and serving with me, who are willing to give up a lot to do the will of God, to change this tired and sick world so that it looks like God's reign, to do right and make right whatever is wrong. You are my mother and sisters and brothers. You are the ones I want to be in reunion with when I come into the reign of God." Now, sisters and brothers, I don't believe that Jesus in this narrative is automatically denigrating our immediate families. We need to pay a lot of attention to our immediate families these days. Families go through a lot of meaningful experiences together. Simply reflect upon the last 14 months and the measures we took and the creativity we applied to find different ways to communicate with our fellow family members. Jesus started his religious and sociological upbringing within a Jewish family. That's where most of us begin our lives. But God's true family is far more porous and outreaching and expansive than our bloodlines. God knows we need to let this message sink into us during these days of polarization and separation and partisanship. Jesus has transformed family from a cadre of people joined by blood into a force bound to the commission of championing the powerful reality of God's holy and blessed reign. Family is more than blood. Family is more than kinship. Family is beyond our specific geography. Family is about the reign of God coming and the world of humanity changing because of Christ's call to each and every one of us. That's why families of all configurations and sizes unite and reunite through Jesus so that they can renew their collective strength, support one another in service, love one another, encourage one another, so that the gospel can be advanced in word and deed from this time forth and forevermore.